I never made it, but I know what it takes. I'm motivated by a mix of emotion. Got my statement, and I'm reading it slow so I can understand it fully. Appreciate my standing, go out of this world and right on time. Oh, never in my life have I seen the sky light up like this. I'm far away from Earth and I wanna know if you exist. Mission control, do you read me? Send me my coordinates lately. Mission control, am I drifting? Tie me to someone who will love me. Yeah, wait, I think I'll last a bit longer. Find another reason.
Welcome everyone to another Ref Brandon and the Todd Family YouTube video. Wherever you are, whatever you may be doing, thank you so much for making Ref Brandon and the Todd Family a part of your day. We always greatly appreciate it. I'm going to be previewing another team's 2022 college football schedule coming up later on this week. And I still may do another one, but I know for sure I'm going to do one, and I'll probably do that tomorrow. And don't forget, of course, coming up on Wednesday will be another weekly top 10 countdown. But today I'm going to be talking about some of the rule changes that you're going to be seeing in the 2022 college football season. If you have any thoughts on this, please feel free to let me know. A couple of them I think are going to be a big deal, and a couple of them are not going to be a big deal. And more than likely, we talk about it here in the last week of April, and it's going to be so non-significant that by September, you're going to completely forget about it because it's not going to matter. But one of them is that schools will now be able to appeal second half targeting penalties, which of course, if you follow college football, you know that the rule right now is if you get called for targeting in the first half of the game, you're out for the rest of the game. But if you get called for targeting in the second half of the game, it's supposed to be that you're suspended automatically for the second half of that game and the first half of the next game. Well, now they're going to appeal that after the game so that maybe by the following week you won't be suspended for the first half. You'll be able to come back, which makes sense to me. I understand the targeting rule, I always have, but to me, if you can have flagrant fouls in basketball, you should have something kind of like a flagrant foul in college football and the NFL for that matter, because to me, if we as fans can sit back and see somebody's intent or non-intent, then why can't all the big shots in the offices of the football not see their intent or non-intent? I can watch somebody tackle somebody and watch their helmet and watch the way they tackle them, and I can tell immediately whether or not they were trying to hurt that person. To me, it's not hard to see. So this way, if you get thrown out for targeting in the second half, they'll have basically an entire week to go back and watch the video and decide whether or not you were trying to hurt that person. But it won't affect the first half. So if you get thrown out in the first half, you're still going to be out for the rest of that game. And another one is that the NCAA is addressing players faking injuries, which happens more with the widespread use of up-tempo offenses. You see it all the time now, and I do agree that something needs to be done about it, but at the same time, I don't really know what you can do, because if somebody falls down and says, hey, I got a cramp, you can't prove that they ain't got a cramp. I mean, sometimes you think it's obvious, especially if it's a team that's running extremely fast, or if it's the same guy on defense, done fell down 4 or 5 times. After a while, it's pretty obvious he's faking. but you can't prove whether or not a guy has some kind of cramp, especially if it's, early season September when it's still hot. If they play somewhere in the southern states, it's still going to be, high 80s, 90 degrees. If they fall down and say, I got a cramp, you can't prove any different. But now, David Shaw, of course, we know David Shaw is the head coach of Stanford, but he's also pretty much over the, I guess you could call it, player safety panel. And he said they're reviewing all kinds of stuff that they might try to change to help with the widespread use of faking injuries. And he says they are considering allowing both teams to substitute after a first down. That's not going to be a rule change this year, but he said it might happen in the future. And then that way, it should help some, because that's usually when it gets really, really bad, is when a team gets the ball, especially deep in their own territory, and they've already got 2 or 3 first downs, and then all of a sudden the defense is tired. But to me, they say these players nowadays are supposed to be bigger, stronger, faster. So to me, they should be able to be in good enough shape to be on the field. And if they're not, that's the defense's fault, not the offense's fault. And another rule change that we're going to see, this is one that I don't really think is going to make any difference, because I think once people see that it's a rule, they're going to say, oh, no big deal. But they're calling it the Kenny Pickett rule. And that has been greenlit to take effect. And if you don't know what that is, if you watch the ACC championship game this past year, when Pittsburgh defeated Wake Forest, there was a time in that game where Kenny Pickett was running, and I think he got around 55 or so yards on the run play, but he was running, and it looked like he was going to slide. Well, he faked the slide so that the Wake Forest defense would stop. Then he sped back up and ended up getting some more yards. Well, now, if any player on the field goes to slide, the play is blown dead right there. So you pretty much can't fake a slide, because it does you no good, because the referee's going to blow the whistle and say, hey, you said you were down, you went to slide. And like I said, I don't think that's going to matter, because I think if a player knows that him fake sliding is going to blow the play dead, there's no reason to fake slide. So I don't think that rule is going to change anything, but it is a rule change, so I wanted to go ahead and bring it up. And another one is blocking below the waist. It has been changed some. Blocking below the waist can now happen with a lineman and a stationary running back inside the tackle box. But blocking below the waist outside the tackle box is absolutely 100% prohibited. So a lineman and a stationary running back can block below the waist inside the tackle box, but not outside the tackle box. And the last rule change, another one that I don't think is really going to matter at all. I don't even know why they even put it down, but it was listed, was that defensive holding will remain a 10-yard penalty, but will always carry an automatic first down. So, in my way of thinking, for this to have even been wrote down, they must have actually considered either getting rid of defensive holding altogether, or making it where it's not going to be an automatic first down. Otherwise, it wouldn't have been wrote down at all. But I think since that was already the rule, that it's not going to change anything, because nothing's changing. Either they were thinking about getting rid of holding altogether on the defense, or they were thinking about making it more than a 10-yard penalty, or they were thinking about not making it an automatic first down. I don't know which one they were discussing, but for it to have been wrote down, they were discussing one of those three, if not more than one of those three. Any thoughts on any of these, please feel free to let me know. And which one do you think is going to make the biggest difference this season? I think that it's going to be, personally, it's going to be the targeting penalties, because of the fact there's usually at least 1 or 2 big-time teams every week that don't have a player for a first half because he's been suspended for a targeting rule from the previous week. Well, now some of those targeting penalties may be overturned, and you may see a lot of these big time teams get their big time players back because their targeting penalty was overturned, and they pretty much looked at it and said, you know what? He did hit him with his helmet, but there was no malicious intent in that. So again, any thoughts on this, please feel free to let me know. Quickly, I've got a shout out in today's video as well. Today's shout out goes out to Miss Helen. She is a big time wrestling fan. She actually came to the SWA show this past Saturday night. She told me she was there. I don't remember. I may have spoken to her. I don't remember. I see so many people from all the different places that I go referee that I can't possibly remember everybody that I talked to. But she said she was there, and she said she enjoyed it. So, Miss Helen, thank you so much for subscribing. Make sure you give the video a thumbs up. Tell your friends, tell your family, and please help us help the channel continue to grow. And if you do so choose to comment on any video at any time, you will be eligible for our 1,000 subscriber giveaway that we'll be having whenever we get to 1,000 subscribers. I know right now we are knocking on the door of 900, and we appreciate that so very much. Let's go ahead and get our dad joke of the day in here. Why can't a leopard hide? Because he's always spotted. And that wraps it up for today's Ref Brandon and the Todd Family YouTube video. Until next time, it's Ref Brandon saying, just like in pro wrestling, life can be over by the count of 3. Tell your friends and family how much you love them. Bye.